Evolution. Sports Talk Television live here nightly. All Bucks report. It's the Sports Lab. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about on tonight's show. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. Will you shut up and be quiet? So at halftime, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are losing to the Chicago Bears 14-13. Live here from the Deck Bar and Grill. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with editor-in-chief, Mr. Philip Schwegler. We also got Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy in here. Let's bring him in here at halftime. And guys, predominantly, this game has been dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the last 2 minutes, it seems like this defense is kind of falling apart. And I felt like I was kind of seeing 2018 again. Once again, the will route comes back to haunt them, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they got to play. Stop playing so far off of their receivers, the running backs. That's what's happening with this wheel route. They're giving them too much cushion between the first down marker and where the line is scrimmaging. That's really hurting them right now.
Yeah, I mean, Ray, you watched it. We also saw some penalty misses there. It looked like 3 penalty calls, including a right guard where he looked like he moved more than Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett was called for the encouragement, and it should have been called on the guard instead.
Yeah, but the football gods were against the Buccaneers on that turnover, especially because, first of all, it was a clean hit. It was a shoulder. There was intent, but he led all into him. I thought the ball was actually mishandled on the first step there for that on that turnover on that fumble. And then secondly, you saw a lineman go in low on Tom Brady, and none of them were actually fouls, but it was like the football gods were working against him. But yeah, that Shaq Barrett offsides, there was definitely movement by that guard, and that wasn't a changing point, but it was an important point of that game in that quarter.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And look, if you're trying to protect the quarterback, why isn't that call made in the first place? I get it. Keyshawn Vaughn with a great, fumble, but Kyle Fuller made an unbelievable hit. I thought it was a helmet-to-helmet shot, but he went in with his shoulder pad. Yeah. So to me, why isn't that play discontinued? It should have been called a penalty if you're trying to protect the quarterback, especially in a Tom Brady. You're going for his legs. It's evident. Why can't you get the call right on that?
Well, I think they called the first call. They called the first call with the fumble on Keyshawn Vaughn. I don't think they saw that second call in the back there. I think that's the little miscommunication there between the referees.
Now, I'll tell you, guys, what I saw a Buccaneers team start to have a little too much of their own success, and it started going a little bit to their head. And I think we were all loving it. Oh, they're throwing it to Tyler Johnson, and things are looking good, and they're using these young tools. And I think the team just kind of outsmarted themselves at a point when they should have just, if it was going to be a black and blue old NFC North division type of game, then just go to start shoving that football right down their throat. Instead, they're trying to be a little too tricky. So in the second half, I looked for the Bucs to totally impose their will on that Bears defense.
Yeah, would you saying that real quick? Just real quick, the stat came out. The Buccaneers are actually leading the league with plus 34 in the differential category and shutting out their opponents in the first quarter.
And also, we talked about this, and what you're watching right now is your halftime edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with editor-in-chief of Bucs Report, Mr. Philip Swagler. We got Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, best of the Bay, live from the Deck Bar and Grill. You're exactly right with Evans catching that touchdown. There was a stat out there, you said?
Yeah, first time in Tom Brady's career where he has thrown 5 touchdowns to one single player in five consecutive games.
Right, and they got off to a good start. There was some missed opportunities there. You missed Tanner Hudson. They also missed Evans. It looked like they settled for a couple field goals. But defensively, guys, do you think they're getting enough pressure on the Nick Foles? Because you look at the statistics, what is it, 15 for 21, 159 yards. He hasn't done anything spectacular, but the pressure is not getting there once again. We continue to talk about this. If you're going to blitz, you have to get to him, and if you don't, he's going to make you pay.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, where the heck are the sacks this game? They have one quarterback hit, I believe, before halftime there. I mean, what happened to this aggressive defensive line we've seen the past 4 weeks? You know, when are they going to get home and hit the quarterback? That's what I'm waiting.
The worst part, sorry, guys, I was going to say the worst part is it was right after that missed call on that offensive guard where they get the offsides on Shaq. And you could see that, Todd Bowles was a little pissed off, and the Buccaneers, they brought the kitchen sink and everything on that blitz instead of dropping someone back and at least covering that running back on that screen pass that goes for huge yardage. And, of course, it sets up the wheel route later on. So that was really the turning point of that entire first half. And it's still only 14-13, so it's still a game quite in hand, but they just have to make sure they get back to the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carlton Davis has an early interception, which kind of sets the tone for the Bucs. Of course, they go down and score a touchdown with Mike Evans. Really hasn't done a lot in this game, but the story is Tyler Johnson has 4 catches for 61 yards. Kind of surprised by that? The young man stepping up.
No, I mean, someone had to step up. We see kind of Mike Evans kind of like on a rep count right now. You don't really see him out there too much. I think they're still a little worried about the ankle and whatnot. So very, very refreshing to see Tyler Johnson finally get into the game and actually be a difference maker as a wide receiver.
Yeah, the other story here, Tampa Bay Ray, was the fact of the victim of volume in a Ronald Jones who's running strong. They're giving him carries. He's catching the ball. I mean, talk about Jones a little bit.
Well, that's where, they went away from that. And, looked like Ronald Jones was having his way. Like Phil said, he was averaging over 5 yards a carry. Or it was 4.8 tonight, but 5.08 so far from last week. And instead of going with him, staying with the hot hand and looking for him out of the backfield on the catches, he's made 2 great catches tonight. That early out in the route, but only went for 2 yards. But I said to you, that was an important thing to set up the confidence between him and Tom, and then the confidence that he would have in himself. But then they went away from it. And I get it, Tyler. You want to get everyone else involved, and the rookie's looking good, and Gronkowski's trying to get in there. But just pound it down the ground and let the run set up the pass.
Yeah, 10 carries for 50 yards. I mean, that's where you want to be, and you're exactly right. You get away from the running game, and again, it doesn't look like Evans is necessarily as effective as he needs to be. He's still nursing that ankle injury. Tyler Johnson is stepping up. You like to see Scotty Miller, and they're going to their tight ends tonight. Yeah. Missed the opportunity to Tanner Hudson early on.
Definitely. It's kind of cool to see Tanner Hudson finally get in there and catch the ball. But I definitely think they're going to have to lean on a couple of these other tight ends and a couple of these unrecognizable wide receivers, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. The other surprise of the game, we heard all about the defense getting after Brady besides the late hit there, which I thought was a late hit and should have been called by the ref if you're trying to protect the quarterback. But they relatively kept Brady pretty clean here. Give credit to where credit is due. Donovan Smith and Tristan.
Yeah. Because we're always the first to poo-poo on Donovan, and Lord knows he gets his due share, but, man, he had a great block in that first half. I mean, it might have been his block of the year so far. It may end up being his block for the entire year, but we just need him some more this second half. We need that offensive line again to impose their will upon those monsters of the midway and drive the ball down their throat.
Absolutely, guys, and a big drive by the Chicago Bears because they get the ball in the second half, and as we talked about that stat tonight, they have scored no points in the third quarter, so this defense needs to make those necessary adjustments, much like they did last week versus the Chargers, and shut them down. If they can do that, I feel like the Bucs can win this game. I do.
Yeah, definitely. I think they need to control the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball more here in the second half. Todd Bowles has got to come up with something. You want to blitz, but you got to make sure you got to cover that wheel route, that screen pass, whatever have you, in that second part of the defense there. You got to cover that in the second half.
All right, we'll read a couple comments, and then we'll get out of here from the web heads. Go Bucs. Johnny says, time to regroup like last week. Halftime adjustments, absolutely, Tim. Jimmy Graham's touchdown should have been offensive pass interference. He pushed off with his left hand and caught it with his right. Also, there was another call with Allen Robinson who looked like he pushed off on the corner there on the play. They didn't call it. So it is what it is. Jimmy, MF, and Graham, they got to tighten up the secondary. People are open like Mike Smith is calling it. I mean, the will routes are ridiculous. Yeah. They're going to Cordell Patterson. Whitehead has him covered, and yet he's looking in the backfield instead of doing what he needs to do. Yeah. So Rick says that was a great catch by Graham. Sometimes you just have to tip your hat. If that was a Buccaneer tight end catching that, we would say it was a perfect pass and great catch. Never said it wasn't. I said what was attributed to it, the missed calls from the refs. Mm-hmm. So tell you what, we'll read more comments when we come back, but go ahead. Halftime adjustment, Tampa Bay Ray for the Bucs to win this game in the second half.
Stay the course. Don't change the game plan. Just don't try to just don't get too tricky. I mean, just stick with the basics and let Tom have a little bit of fun. I mean, he's the GOAT. He deserves it, but stick with the basics. This game is still well in hand. And like Johnny just said, regroup like we did in the third quarter last week, and let's just bring this thing home.
All right, good stuff there. Philip Schwegler, editor-in-chief of Bucs Report.
Continue control the play clock. You know, run the ball more, I think, in the second half. And when the pass play action opens up, you know, use it. Defense definitely needs to step up in the second half.
More pressure on Foles, victim of volume in a Ronald Jones. Stay the course, open it up with the pass play action. The Bucs can win this game. For the great Philip Schwegler, editor-in-chief of Bucs Report for Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy, best of the Bay. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Enjoy the second half of the game.